an encrypted manuscript by a British genius hold the secret to limitless wealth and immortality? Did Isaac Newton unlock the mysteries of the legendary Philosopher's Stone? And the holy city of Jerusalem? Could a complex of ancient tunnels hide a spectacular, supernatural, biblical relic? The casket that supposedly houses the living spirit of God.
This is the place where the Ark is waiting for us. No doubt about it.
The Philosopher's Stone, a legendary source of limitless wealth and eternal life. It's a popular myth, but for alchemists, it was a serious quest. The Philosopher's Stone wasn't an object, but a forbidden formula. It's been written off as nothing more than a fantasy for centuries. But now, scholars have found an encoded manuscript written by one of Britain's greatest scientific minds, Sir Isaac Newton. It suggests he was close to discovering the Philosopher's Stone, the alchemist's holy grail, the secret of how to change base metals into gold. The find has sparked a new quest for the Philosopher's Stone. Historian and writer Anna-Marie Roos is following a potential trail of clues around London. For those who believe in codes, its architecture is loaded with symbolism. Anna-Marie Roos specializes in early English chemistry and medicine. Deep in the vaults of the Royal Society, a manuscript that had been lost for almost 100 years has been recovered. Written by Isaac Newton, its equations and experiments are expressed in mysterious symbols and cryptic phrases.
I'm really excited about seeing this document in Newton's hand because who knows what we're going to find?
It's hoped the manuscript will shed light on Newton's supposed quest for the Philosopher's Stone. Rob Iliffe has studied much of Newton's work. It's hoped he might be able to decode the manuscript. The Philosopher's Stone was the alchemist's ultimate goal. Alchemy itself dates back before the Dark Ages. According to legend, the Philosopher's Stone was the product of a formula that could transform base metals into gold. The Philosopher's Stone also cured wounds and disease. It was the key to wealth and eternal life.
There it is. I mean, that's a manuscript of Isaac Newton's.
How do you make sense of that?
The Newton manuscript is written in a complex combination of Latin, ancient Greek, and 17th century English. But the real challenge is deciphering the strange symbols he used to encode his results.
There are some symbols in Newton's alchemical writings whose meaning we don't understand. We just don't know what they are.
Oh, there's some interesting ones. I'm not quite entirely sure what that is. We see the sun, which I believe represents gold, and the moon, silver, and mercury, but...
These are elements that are specifically alchemical, and they've been produced as a result of the alchemical process.
The mysterious symbols aren't the only clues. The pages themselves are evidence as to what Newton was doing as he wrote his book.
You can see that some of the pages are lighter coloured, and some of them, as in this one here, are actually very dark. I think that indicates that this was on his table when he was doing alchemical experiments.
So it could possibly be that some of the chemicals of the smoke may have discoloured the page itself.
And they're still embedded in the paper.
A unique experiment is underway to shed light on the ancient mysteries of alchemy and the legendary Philosopher's Stone.
So you've got yellow phosphorus there.
Yes, I mean, this is the amazing material that was actually distilled by the alchemist Henrik Brandt from human urine. We've got oxygen in the globe and a very small piece of phosphorus.
Oh, that's spectacular.
Chemist Andrea Seller believes alchemy was more than mere black magic,
Oh, wow. Cool.
but the birth of modern chemical science.
Well, this is precisely the sort of thing that Newton would have been interested in.
Well, I mean, there can't have been that many light sources at the time, and so something which would actually light up like this must have been a real revelation.
Isaac Newton's alchemical experiments began in 1668 while he was a fellow at Cambridge University. He turned his study into a laboratory, working night and day. A fire that almost burned the building to the ground may have been the result of a runaway experiment. Alchemists worked in secret and wrote in code for a good reason. For around half of Newton's life, the practice of alchemy was illegal and punishable by death. Alchemists were often hanged on gallows painted gold. Deemed the work of the devil, alchemy posed a more earthly threat to authority. The wealth of kings and nations was stored in gold. If alchemists found a way to make huge amounts of it, its sudden devaluation would have threatened the world's richest and most powerful kingdoms. By Newton's time, alchemy was also considered to be a source of forged currency. Probably unaware of Newton's passion for the forbidden art, the king appointed him head of the Royal Mint, based at the Tower of London.
Duties was to ensure the soundness of His Majesty's coinage. He pursued counterfeiters and forgers with ruthless ferocity and sent them to their death.
Broadcaster and writer Professor Thomas Levinson is an acclaimed authority on the life and works of Isaac Newton.
Great to see you.
Good to see you. Nice to meet you.
So, you know,
In 1696, Newton was the architect of what the Royal Mint dubbed the Great Recoinage. Silver coins were so worn or forged that new, full-weight coins were needed to replace them. A coin dealer's hoard demonstrates the challenge Newton faced.
Look at these.
Oh no.
Oh, and look, that's been really chipped away.
It has.
Hi there, can I help?
I am working on Isaac Newton and his role in England's coinage.
Period of Isaac Newton because he was master of the mint.
Warden and then master. Yeah.
Warden and then master. Right.
Richard Bishop is an expert dealer in Old English coins.
If you're interested in Newton, then you must know the mess that he inherited.
Indeed. Look, in the 1690s, you have an effective plague of counterfeiting. Again, Newton's estimate, there's something like 11% of England's silver coinage as of 1696 is fake. I wonder, do you happen to have any historic counterfeits hiding in the place?
Hiding, yes. Yes, not here on the counter. They're locked away somewhere.
Oh, excellent.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Grand. So this is the secret stash.
These they're all forgeries. You haven't seen these, not here.
I don't believe that. Somebody handed that to me as a coin. Until I looked over here. You know, that shiny little hint of silver? And that black metal in between?
Yes.
So it's pewter or something underneath there.
Yep.
And that's a good fake.
It is an excellent fake.
Yeah, here's a textbook example of what happens when you don't get it right.
Yeah, well, when it goes wrong, you don't understand metallurgy. There you are.
They didn't boil it long enough or mix the alloy or something. Yeah. But you can really see how thin the skim of silver is.
Just enough to try to fool somebody.
In his later life, Newton protected his king's currency with zeal. But in his younger days, he was up to his neck in illegal alchemy, conducting endless experiments with the aim of transforming base metal into gold. The Patriot was also endowed with the burning curiosity of a great scientist. And that curiosity had led him to the occult and the quest for the legendary Philosopher's Stone. Key sections of Newton's mysterious manuscript are written in code. But one intriguing image kept in the great scientist's library could be the key to cracking the code.
It's called the Green Lion.
The so-called Green Lion seems to be consuming a golden sun that in turn appears to be bleeding red.
The sun is something that presumably represents gold.
We definitely see the lion biting gold, so we know that there's some sort of reaction going forth. I mean, whether it's a corrosive sort of thing or a distillation, I'm really not sure.
One thing that really intrigues me is the blood. Why would the gold perhaps bleed? Why would it turn red?
There were a series of color changes that you were supposed to go through in order to get to the Philosopher's Stone, and that one of the most important ones was red. When you got to red, you were very nearly there.
You were very close.
Yeah.
The image appears to be a clue describing the last stages of making the Philosopher's Stone.
But of course, there's another way of attacking gold, of dissolving it, and that's actually to use mercury. Mercury will form an amalgam with gold, and it was a classic way of actually extracting gold from its ore.
The red blood could be a cryptic reference to a magical solvent known as philosophical mercury.
Philosophical mercury was also reputed to be able to dissolve any kind of metal, including gold.
Decoding such images is difficult. When alchemy was outlawed and attracted brutal punishments, alchemists used ciphers to hide the true nature of their experiments. Newton seems to have done the same thing. Such codes ensured no one could accuse him of dabbling in the dark arts, especially later in his life, when he had abandoned alchemy and became master of the royal mint.
What's interesting about it is that
Newton employed spies to root out forgers and showed no mercy to those he caught.
He recruited a network of people who had access to increasingly bad guys. He disguised them when necessary. He sent them out. They would go to, the places where this stuff was happening, often pubs or taverns.
So he had an entire network of spies and things that he would sort of pay to infiltrate their way into criminal circles,
Absolutely.
didn't he?
And they were his agents. If you thought no one was listening, when Newton was in charge, someone was always listening. There's at least one instance where he himself, Newton, famously this rather unsociable guy, dives into a pub and questions at some length an informant.
A notorious forger, William Challoner, proved to be Newton's arch nemesis.
Challoner was the master counterfeiter of London in the first half of the 1690s. He claimed to have forged 30,000 pounds worth of currency, which is millions. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 million.
He was a major player then, so of great interest to Newton, obviously.
Indeed. William Challoner was actually genuinely impressive in his own right. He didn't just have the reputation for being a master criminal, he really was.
Newton's spies finally caught Challoner in 1698. Records of his interrogation and the master forger's personal plea to Newton begging for mercy have survived.
Oh, dear sir, do this thing for me. My offending me has brought me to this point. Keep me from being murdered. Oh, dear God.
He's begging for his life, essentially, isn't he?
Yeah. Look at the signature. Your near murdered, humble servant, William Challoner. But he's also desperately afraid. What on earth could have brought this guy sitting in Newgate jail, committing all these terrible crimes, into correspondence, literally, with Isaac Newton, the smartest man of the world? And this is his last.
Challoner's plea for mercy didn't get him anywhere. Today, crowds flock to the West End of Oxford Street to shop, but in Newton's time, the way led to gruesome death at the end of a hangman's noose.
Close to Marble Arch.
In 1699, William Challoner was dragged 5 kilometers through the streets to the infamous gallows known as the Tyburn Tree. A plaque at Marble Arch marks the spot where thousands of souls, including the master forger, were put to death.
That's it. There's it. This is the most notorious of the rather depressingly many execution grounds around here. Well, I mean, it was an almost industrial site for execution. I mean, the scaffolding that they built was this sort of big triangle, and they could hang 4 aside, so, 12 people at a time.
Oh, my goodness.
Isaac Newton had William Challoner hanged for counterfeiting, but was there another motive? Before he died, Challoner hinted that Newton was engaged in some kind of illegal activity. Did the great scientist have something to hide?
Newton kept an enormous number of records. There are something like 5 large folders of his mint documents in his own hand. There's this one folder left that catalogs his interrogations of coiners and counterfeiters and sort of general bad people. The only odd thing about it is that folder, though it's got something like 400 documents in it, really only covers about 14, 15 months of what was about 3 years of his activity in this area.
What happened to the rest of it?
There is one report from Newton's nephew-in-law that he once helped Isaac Newton sort of carry out some papers from the mint and burn them. We don't know what papers they are. Newton is not known for destroying records.
No.
I can't know what was in them, but I'd love to know if I could.
Exactly what the great scientist wanted erased from the record remains a mystery. But Newton himself was evidently engaged in work which he considered so valuable or dangerous that his notes had to be written in code. Records at the Royal Society reveal references made by Newton to the work of rival alchemists.
One of the interesting things about this document is that it's composed of a number of different small works, and some of them look simply like he's copying word for word. Yeah, this one here is very interesting. This is an alchemist, Philalethes, who went to Harvard. He was one of the first people to go to Harvard.
So he's an American alchemist.
That's right. He's taken extremely seriously by the English alchemists in the late 17th century because he developed a series of techniques for achieving the Philosopher's Stone.
Experts are particularly intrigued by Newton's use of the Latin term, regulus.
Well, let's take a look here at the Latin. It says the ingredients of composition of the regulus.
The Latin term harks back to the cryptic image of the green lion.
A lot of alchemical metals and symbols were connected with astrology, believe it or not. From what I recall, in the constellation of Leo, the lion, there's a star called Regulus, and which was known as the heart of the lion. Now, I have to wonder, I mean, this is really intriguing. I have to wonder if this green lion is really a reference to the heart of the lion, the Regulus of the lion.
Making the legendary Philosopher's Stone is said to have involved a chain of steps. The last critical step was the creation of a mysterious solvent known as philosophical mercury, the final ingredient that would create the stone itself. In Newton's manuscript, the blood pouring from the lion's mouth has been interpreted as philosophical mercury. The lion is the clue. According to the legend, to make philosophical mercury, the alchemist needed the heart of a lion, or Regulus. Encrypted in Newton's manuscript is an alchemical recipe for making Regulus. Could it mean that Isaac Newton believed he was just one step away from making the mythical Philosopher's Stone?
I'm pretty sure that he was after the Philosopher's Stone, and you know, as we look here through. And then it gives us some alchemical symbols. We have this one right here. Now that's
Mars.
That's so that's iron, isn't it? And then we have this one. That's antimony, I believe, the ore.
This is very, very obscure. I mean, the only thing that I'm aware of is that you might be able to smelt antimony using iron. But it's certainly not obvious from this.
And then we can go along here, and what we see is, from this we get this verissime, the most true gold. That's interesting because whenever you see references to this is the most true gold, or the most purified gold is a step towards the Philosopher's Stone.
It seems that Newton believed he had cracked the secret of the Philosopher's Stone. The results of his experiments encrypted in his book of the dark arts.
I went in, and of course I was immediately...
Following Newton's notes, chemist Andrea Sella is attempting to make the magical substance known as Regulus. The metallic element antimony has to be extracted and melted with iron.
Newton's recipe said something about getting it up to about the melting point of silver.
Well, we're certainly above that now. We're well over 1,000 degrees. But what we really need to do is to pull this out. Is a lot of yellow discoloration on our crucible. I can actually see some silvery bits in there.
Some 300 years after it was written, Newton's recipe is put to the test.
This sure isn't subtle chemistry.
Whoa.
You can really see that kind of metallic glint.
You sure can.
But in fact, we haven't really got enough. It just hasn't coalesced enough to actually get something good out. It has a metallic sheen.
That's right.
They failed to produce Newton's Regulus, a key ingredient apparently needed to make the mythical Philosopher's Stone.
You can imagine that Newton also faced the same types of difficulties. I mean, he was also experimenting, trying to replicate this chemical reaction, and it was sort of part of the puzzle that he was trying to solve.
It's actually an
But there is evidence from another experiment suggesting that Newton's method may work.
Right.
Another high-temperature chemical mixture has produced a result that just may be the Regulus Newton was referring to.
That's gorgeous.
On the surface, you can see these incredible striations which tend to radiate out from a single point.
It appears that Regulus, the brightest star in the constellation Leo, the lion, was a hidden clue to the star-patterned material apparently needed to make the Philosopher's Stone. But the stone itself is nothing more than a myth. The alchemist's goal of turning base metal into gold has proved to be an unattainable dream. How far Isaac Newton went to pursue the legendary riches of the Philosopher's Stone remains a mystery. But a final clue may be found in Westminster Abbey, where he was buried in 1727.
When Newton died, his body was found to be full of mercury. It was symbolic of his 10-year quest to find the Philosopher's Stone.
Jerusalem. It's been a hotspot of religious and political upheaval for millennia, and the turmoil continues today. The focus of tension is the Temple Mount, sacred to both Jews and Muslims. It's dominated by the 1,300-year-old Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But the mount was also the site of Solomon's temple. According to biblical legend, it housed the all-powerful Ark of the Covenant. Archaeologist Professor Shimon Gibson has lived and worked in the ancient city for 35 years. He's keen to explore a sprawling labyrinth of ancient tunnels under the spot where Solomon's temple once stood. Much of it is unexplored, and some believe it could conceal the lost Ark of the Covenant. Shimon Gibson has been compiling old maps and the written accounts of people who ventured under the Temple Mount.
There's something like 45 underground chambers and many, many conduits and tunnels. Since Crusader times, people have been digging under the Temple Mount, not archaeologists, I hasten to add, in the search for the Ark of the Covenant.
According to the Bible, the Ark of the Covenant holds the 10 Commandments and the terrible rod that brought on the 10 plagues of Egypt. The legend says that anyone touching them dies instantly. With no physical proof of its existence, the Ark is a mere story. Few archaeologists believe a physical relic still survives, but there are many theories and claims as to what and where it is. If the Ark does exist, Shimon Gibson says the Temple Mount is an obvious place to look.
The Ark of the Covenant is a wooden box. It was covered with gold and was held up by 2 poles. It was believed by the early Israelites to contain the Spirit of God. It was kept in Solomon's temple, but it's disappeared. We don't know where it is. It may be hidden in a subterranean space beneath the Temple Mount.
Gershon Solomon heads a radical Jewish group that wants to banish Muslims from the Temple Mount. He's convinced that he's heard the voice of God and that the Ark of the Covenant is beneath the Temple Mount.
We read in Chronicles that King Josiah, a righteous king from the house of David, commanded the Levites to take the Ark of Covenant and hide it underneath the Temple Mount in a secret place.
The entrance to the tunnel system is open to public view. One tunnel is exciting archaeologists. Warren's Shaft is a 12-meter vertical drop. It's named after Sir Charles Warren. Before becoming London Police Commissioner, the Royal Engineer was employed to carry out an archaeological survey of ancient Jerusalem in the 19th century. Some believe he was following clues relating to the city's biblical history.
Straight away, he decided that this must be the shaft by which, according to the biblical account, King David accessed the city and captured it.
Some tunnels have only recently been opened up, and many others have yet to be excavated and explored. few archaeologists are allowed in, and Professor Gibson is one of them. This tunnel leading from the Warren shaft is half filled with water, narrow and awkward.
Where's the light? I can't see anything.
The tunnel soon branches off, and branches off again. It's a disorientating and claustrophobic environment. The underground labyrinth is thousands of years old. Many of these tunnels have remained undisturbed for countless centuries. They seem to be largely empty. The search for clues has to resume above ground. Shimon Gibson wants to find out more about Sir Charles Warren, who conducted the first extensive excavations of tunnels around the Temple Mount area in 1867. Warren was no ordinary archaeologist. The military engineer was later charged with hunting down the notorious serial killer Jack the Ripper after his time in Jerusalem. Historian Daniel Doron has studied Charles Warren and his links to Freemasonry, a relationship that may explain the Victorian engineer's interest in the hidden subterranean world of the Holy City.
Hello, Daniel.
Hi.
A pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you. This is actually the place where the first Masonic meeting in modern times was held in 1873. So Charles Warren participated in this meeting.
So Warren was a Freemason?
Freemasons are traditionally shrouded in mystery and were regarded with suspicion. What brought Charles Warren and his fellow Freemasons to a cave in Jerusalem?
What's the connection of this cave with Freemasonry?
King Solomon himself and his temple are extremely central, really at the core of what Freemasonry is about. It was believed that here the stones for Solomon's temple actually excavated.
So this is a most appropriate place then?
This is the most important place to be in if you want connection to King Solomon and his temple.
According to Masonic legend, Solomon's temple was built by one of the first Freemasons. The stone quarried from these caves.
The roof shows the size of the stones. Look at the length of the cut. Yeah. So the stones must have been as big as all that.
I mean, that's about 3 yards in length. I mean, that's quite a hefty stone.
Masons have been visiting the cave for more than a century.
Let's have a look over here. Some of these inscriptions are really quite amazing. Oh yes, look at that one there. Yes.
There.
Yes, it says lodge number 1372.
Scottish Constitution, and the lodge still exists. Holy City Lodge.
There's one here, London, 1942.
Yes, there are plenty.
And that symbol here of the Masons.
The square and the compasses.
Yes. Do you see it? It's quite, look, it's quite amazing.
But you have many, and many of them from the 40s. Obviously, they must have been very excited when they wrote it, because they believed they were actually at King Solomon's quarries.
Quarries, yes.
Tales linking the Ark of the Covenant with the Templar Knights and Freemasonry have thrived. even though no trace of the biblical relic has emerged.
One has to keep an open mind about the possibility that the Ark of the Covenant was even brought here and hidden, and I'll tell you why. If you were living in Jerusalem and your city was under siege, and you have an enormous cave like this which is underground, where would you hide your valuables? Not inside your house, it would be in a cave such as this. Beneath the floor of the cave where we're standing at the moment is another underground level. And what's special about it is you have tunnels which lead off to the southeast. That means from where we're standing in that direction, underground.
Straight under the Temple Mount.
Exactly, straight towards the Temple Mount. Now, you have rubble almost up to the ceiling there. And they're blocked with lots of stones, but who knows where they lead.
The Golden Dome of the Rock is the oldest surviving Islamic monument in the world. Israeli authorities have allowed an Islamic organization some control over access and development of the Temple Mount. As a rule, outsiders are forbidden from excavating on the Mount. Journalist Danny Rubenstein offers his explanation as to why access to the disputed and sacred site presents such a sensitive and difficult issue.
Many Westerners would like to gain access to some of these underground chambers. The Muslim authorities will not allow them.
Yeah, the background is the fear. Yeah. Since the Crusaders' time, they know that it might be that this place will take over by either Christians or Jews. And they don't want anyone to go inside there. That's a holy place, and don't want anyone to interfere and to go because it's a threat for them.
Shimon Gibson does not have official permission from the Islamic Authority to explore the Mount. But part of it has been excavated for a new building project. Thousands of tons of rubble and earth from beneath Temple Mount have been dumped on various rubbish sites around the city. An archaeological team has been collecting and sifting through some of this valuable ancient material.
Iron Age.
Of course. This is part of the material that we sift through is from activities in the subterranean cavities.
I can see it's full of all sorts of artifacts.
Yeah. In total, there were removed from Temple Mount approximately 400 truckloads of soil saturated with archaeological material, with very valuable material.
And this is only a small part?
This is a small part of it. We do not know exactly, unfortunately, where it came from the Temple Mount.
The spoil heaps are potential archaeological treasure troves. Fragments of ancient history are scattered among the dirt and stones. Some of these fragments of history date back to the early period when the biblical ark was said to have been kept inside Solomon's temple.
Wow. Here are some of the finds we had. Of course, we had tens of thousands of finds.
What about the earliest things over here?
We have 3 Egyptian scarabs from First Temple period. We have arrowheads. The inscribed arrowhead has the name of a family known in the Bible. You can see it. These are Crusader arrowheads up here, gaming pieces of the Mameluke period, a silver finger ring of the Turkish Ottoman period. This is of great importance because Temple Mount is the most important archaeological site in this country, or maybe in the world. And we can see very clearly things that were unknown before.
In another breakthrough, Shimon Gibson has permission from the Israeli Antiquities Authority to enter a tunnel system, still under excavation. He believes these passageways may extend towards the Temple Mount. The tunnel opens up into a series of long passageways that may have been part of an ancient water system. This ancient tunnel runs beneath the old city of Jerusalem. It's been fitted with temporary lights to aid excavation teams. Deeper in the tunnel system, the roof is made up of flagstones. This could have been the street level in the time of Christ. Jesus himself may well have walked the streets above.
This tunnel was built 2,000 years ago and then was abandoned at the time of the destruction of the city when the Romans attacked in the year 70, but it originally led up to the Temple Mount. So this is a major engineering feat. I mean, look at these stones and the flagstones which cover the top of the tunnel here. You can see the manhole, which is situated up here.
Shimon continues deeper into other systems of tunnels. The honeycomb of passages, dating back thousands of years, is flooded with water. It doesn't take too vivid an imagination to picture Solomon's temple guards hiding their precious ark deep inside these caverns, thousands of years ago.
It looks like another tunnel which extends off. There's no water in there at all.
It's tough going, but he finally manages to climb inside.
Whoa, that's amazing. It goes all the way in. You can see the tunnel is still unexcavated. It's half full of soil and debris and potsherds, all from 2,000 years ago. Really amazing. You can see the plaster here on the walls, which is 2,000 years old, and there's tons and tons of fragments of pottery just lying around here. Animal bones, charcoal, a bowl. The soil itself is completely black. That means a lot of ashes which got washed into this tunnel, probably after the destruction of the city by the Romans in the year 70.
The tunnel is dotted with smaller holes in the wall.
Ooh, something you're not supposed to see. Human remains.
Evidently, this ancient tunnel has witnessed dramatic events. But the continuing political and religious drama still enveloping Jerusalem means Shimon Gibson can go no further. But even if these enigmatic tunnels don't hold any more than rubble, speculation and sensation will continue to swirl around the seductive legend of the Ark of the Covenant.